All right, we're live.
Another Wednesday.
Another Wednesday, third show before Christmas.
Man, they come quick, don't they? This one came fast, DJ.
Are you kidding me? I think you and I were just talking. It was the beginning of December. It was like, I can't believe now we're basically the end last week.
23, buddy. 23.
We got to get ourselves out and start fishing.
Yeah.
January 21st is going to come up real quick.
You know, speaking of that, I'm sure there's going to be hangover tournaments all around the place here.
Oh, heck yeah. There's that tournament I fished this weekend, that winter trail. We got another one on 31st.
Okay.
So
yeah, maybe we jump into one of them.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, let's get our first guest on. We got Adam Savage on tonight. We also got Chris Flint's going to be coming on about 8:40. He's a guide here on Guntersville, but Adam is fishing the NPFL next year. He's fished it every year since the beginning, so let's bring him on.
Nice.
How's it going?
What's up, Adam?
How are you guys?
We're good.
That's
Just
awesome.
sitting here ready to talk some fishing.
Oh yeah, I'm always down to talk fishing.
Right?
Yep.
Hey, so for guys, again, this is Adam. He's fishing. Adam Savage. He's fishing the NPFL next year. You fish every year with us, right?
No, this year was my first year with you guys.
Was it?
I didn't get to go through the inaugural season with you guys. I wanted to, but I was kind of on that. I guess call it the fence. You know, I was kind of scared to make the jump. So
yeah, I think a lot of people were the first year. You know, nobody knew if it was the real deal. That's what I kept hearing. If it was really going to happen. And
yeah. After they took off and I followed them the whole season, I was like, man, there's no way I'm gonna get here now. I mean, it was just, and I was still shocked whenever Brad called me in August. You know, I was going through COVID and I didn't, I wasn't trying to belittle myself, but I didn't come from a huge college background or the BFLs. I was like a local level kind of guy. So I kind of threw my hat in there. I came to Wright Patman when you guys were there. And introduced myself formally to Brad and Al and Paul and everybody just to say, hey, my name's Adam Savage. And I'm going to put my application in next year. So hopefully you guys will consider me. So it's kind of like I wanted to formally go there and meet him to let him know I was serious about it. So I thought that was my best chance. If anything, if I was going to have any kind of fighting chance to get in to be able to compete with you guys, that was going to be it. So I don't know if that was the end result of why they called me, but I'm glad they sure did. So I've enjoyed it this year.
That was a heck of a drive. We didn't have any tournaments closer, huh?
It wasn't too bad. I mean, I know to some people it sounds like it's far, but it was like, I think it was right at 7 hours from my house.
Oh, that's not too bad.
So that wasn't bad at all.
No, that's not bad. Well, but you're in this year. I saw your video, and a lot of guys putting out videos on kind of trying to decide what they're going to fish. And when I saw yours come up, I was like, oh, I got to hit this and see what I'm fishing. Because I had no clue, which one you were going to choose. So I'm glad you're back with the NPFL.
Yeah, me too.
I won't be there next year, but I'll be back the following year.
Okay.
As long as everything works out.
I was kind of on the fence. Like I wanted to fish with them, but I was trying to like step back because it's something I've been planning to fish at this level has been something I've kind of been planning for a few years. And so, when I was working before all that happened, I kind of set myself up as far as being able to financially afford it and kind of see where the best place I was going to get my ROI at. And I was like, where do I feel like, because I don't have any sponsors. I have sponsors that work with me on discounts and stuff, and I'm trying to earn my keep. And that's the way I wanted to do it. I wanted to kind of go in and kind of, earn it because I feel like, like you get told when you're a kid and you do stuff, you have more respect for it when you get it. Plus, I kind of wanted to learn the process as far as what these companies want. I had an idea of talking to companies from the local level, but I kind of wanted to be able to experience the whole plethora of what it was like to fish at that level, at the professional level, and try to see how, I could adapt as an angler, one, and build up some more confidence in myself, and then two, to see if I could actually really compete with you guys, be consecutive. Because, I mean, fishing all 3 days is hard in itself, but to fish all 3 days against the same number of boats is even harder. And with the guys in the league, you can't come in a day and miss. You got to have them every day.
No, you have a bad day, and it ruins your tournament.
It's over.
And I had plenty of those. Trust me, last year was a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those deals where all year long I tried to do a little something different, and I kept thinking I was on the right deal,
Yeah.
you know, and it would be, I'd either lose some fish or it just seemed like I was just off the whole year. I just couldn't get, it was so frustrating because you feel like you're right there and you're like, I'm on something, you know, this could be it. And there seemed to be like one little piece missing every single tournament that I just, and like I said, whether it was losing fish, I had one day, it was actually on, what lake was it on? Cumberland, I think.
Yeah.
And I lost 4 straight fish on a jig, 4 casts in a row. And I was just like, well, you know, what do you do with that? I'm just like 3 different jigs too.
Yeah.
You know?
That tournament for me too was like that.
Yeah.
It was the same way for me at Cumberland. I mean, I guess everybody was like, that's your home lake because I'm an hour or something from it. But only time I really fished that lake was like through the winter. I never really went out there in the spring and stuff a whole lot because a lot of the USA Bassins would start up around closer to the house. You know, and with work, I would just burn those lakes up. But that tournament was one that I had a really good pre-practice as far as leading up to the cutoff. And then, of course, you know, Mother Nature kind of took an effect and we got like 14 foot of rain. And, and you know how they did that tournament where we got to choose if we wanted to put it at the dam or Conley or at the river. And I told myself, I said, somebody can stay in Burnside and just work this area right here with all the structure, the road beds and everything, these runoffs, and they could catch 5 fish if they just truly just beat it around. And I think that's actually what Matt Massey ended up doing. He got a check in that event. I chose to put in at the lower end because I knew that end. Anytime I ever went to that lake, that's where I put in at. And I had 2 things kind of going through my head. One, it's my first event, you know, at this level. The excitement of that, all the preparation work, you know, it's here now. I got to prove myself. And then 2, I was concerned that I wasn't going to get back in time or I was going to have a catastrophic issue that would keep me from getting back. And so I pull up to the first point, jerk bait, keeper smallmouth. I try to boat flip it. It gets off. And then I go back in there, the same wall. I'm burning a rock crawler, another fish. You know, I get down in the seat, the whole taking my time, you know, all that, and it gets off. And then it just kind of like started trending downhill. And I was fishing so fast, I had to like sit down and tell myself, like, hey, you got to chill out and just do what you know how to do. So I ended up going to the back of Indian Creek and putting on a big 3/4 ounce spinner bait and just slow rolling it around those rocks and stuff. And I still missed some fish. I could have got a check, but it was I think all the anticipation, all the excitement and everything that kind of just, I came back like an hour early because Brad was like, what are you doing? I was like, I was nervous, man. It was just, it's not how
you didn't know. Yeah, that was a tough one because I launched mid-lake.
Okay, so you was at Con.
Yeah, but they told you, you know, hey, if you get stuck in traffic or there's an accident, that's on you. So if you don't make it back, you can't go, well, there was an accident. Yeah. Well, you didn't make it back. So we did the same, tried to figure out how long it was going to take us to get back. I mean, little do we know, most of them, probably all of us know that it probably only took about 2 fish to cash a check in that tournament. Yeah. I mean, I think I want to say it was only like 3-something pounds to cash a check. I think the last place check in that event, don't hold me to this, but I think it was like right at 4-something or 5-something. Yeah. So I mean, it was nothing. It was like 2 fish. Yeah. It was crazy, but what is your home lake out there? Well, I guess if you were home lake for me would probably be like Nolan Lake. It's right at about 45 minutes from my house. It's a little reservoir. It's nothing big. I want to say it's right at 3,000 acres. But that would, I guess, be considered my home lake. I'm pretty like centralized located. I'm in a good spot to where I have several good lakes around me that I can be to. I can be at Kentucky Lake in 2.5 hours. I could be at Del Hollow in 2 hours. So I mean, I get to fish a lot of different bodies of water depending on how far I want to venture out. But even here close, you know, within an hour, I could be at 3 to 4 different lakes. But Nolan, I would consider Nolan. That's kind of where I cut my teeth on the tournament side too. You know, growing up was Nolan with my dad. We fished the Tuesday nighters and the Friday nighters. You know, where you pay $25, everybody runs their boats, jumps in, and takes off. But so that's kind of where I got I played sports in high school, and then I always fished. Everywhere we went, we always fished. And but then when I got into that with him, that was kind of like, oh man, this right here is a whole nother level. And then so that's kind of where I cut my teeth at. So I have a personal relationship with that lake, I guess. And I know we were talking a little bit before. You haven't been out in a couple weeks, but were you out in Nolan when you went out last time?
I was. I fished a USA Bass with one of my best friends. We teamed up this year to fish those, and we fished at Nolan, and we caught them during pre-practice really good, but then, slick calm, just no wind at all. We had to slow down, drag football jigs and stuff, and we caught fish. What we should have did was take A-rigs and got back on that standing timber, but we just didn't do that. We kind of like played it dumb, I guess, if you want to say, and just drug jigs and caught them that way. Just not enough to catch a check, but it was still fun.
Well, what out there? What if you had to pick one winter bait for that lake? Because what we like to kind of do on the show is we'll talk about the lakes that were around and stuff, and we kind of like to get a little inside info on what guys are throwing around there, and hopefully guys will see it. Hopefully pick it up and go out there and catch themselves a few fish. This time of year, what are you throwing out there?
And aside from that, what are you throwing, and kind of what areas are you looking to throw it at? Because I know these fish move a lot towards the winter south.
I kind of play it safe, I guess. If I just want to go out and fish and catch fish and numbers of fish, or kind of get around them, kind of see what's going on. I mean, you really can't beat those, those bluff walls, those channel swing walls. I mean, pretty much textbook stuff. I usually get on those and get parallel with them and crank them. But as far as like going out there and winning a tournament this time of year, A-rigs is key around here a lot. We got a lot of wood in that lake, and if you got the live scope or the active target, you can get around that standing timber and you can find that bait or those bigger fish. And that's what I tell people around here is like, you can catch numbers, but those bigger fish this time of year, being cold-blooded animals, they're not going to exert themselves over a small bait. They're going, they'll exert themselves over a bigger presentation. So a lot of times I'll fish those same walls, those channel swing walls, or those kind of rockier transition flats that are close to deep water. And then if I can get a couple fish in the boat, I've been I don't want to call myself a professional in it, but I've been playing with the bigger like glide baits, the triple jointed swim baits, the bigger baits like you see like Ryan Millick and those guys throwing. I don't have any confidence in those baits, but I will say that, here over the last couple of years, I've been throwing them, and I can see where those baits could be clutch if you could keep one in your hand all day and have the confidence in it, because it does pull bigger fish versus just going down that bait with like a rock crawler or something.
Yeah. How many fish have you watched follow those big baits?
Several Hartwell.
Right. They'll come right up and look at it.
Oh my
and
gosh,
then
man.
Turn around and swim away.
Hartwell crushed my soul with the mag graph.
No, dude, it's funny fishing a glide bait and the bigger baits, especially DJ and I from the West Coast. I'm from California originally, so we grew up throwing that stuff. But we always have a saying back home: if you're pulling them, at least you're getting to see them. But if you're pulling them, you're doing something wrong, because if they're committed, they're going to eat it.
Oh yeah.
So what some of the real good glide bait guys back home who are very successful with it, they always say that, like, there's only on or off. Like, either you're going to pull them, they're going to be curious, so they're going to be on to you, or you're going to pull them and they're going to crush it. So it's so weird with the glide bait. Either it's a retrieve thing when they eat it, or like snapping it, but it's never like a jig where you just throw it and drag it and pop it. Like, you can fish a glide bait 20 ways for it to get bait.
That's what I'm trying to learn too. I've been playing around with them. Like I said, I'm no expert. It's a lot of getting on YouTube and kind of watching guys that have the confidence in those, the Chris Zaldanes, the Ryan Millikins, those guys that, throw those baits all the time, and their whole deck is full of different sizes and different brands. And it's something like, I think any fisherman can agree with me, or fisherwoman. When you fish, it's not just having a love for the fish. It's like you buy stuff you're never going to use, because it's kind of like, it's crazy. So I'm trying to like keep myself from going down too far of a wormhole, because when you really research some of these baits, it's ridiculous, the price. Where I like to fish, I'm going to lose something. And at that point, I want to probably take like scuba gear and stuff in the boat. Some of those things are ridiculous on the price, but I'm trying to be more of a universal angler on the water, trying to, that way when I go to different bodies of water, I can have confidence in just, being a river rat, which is what I feel like I am. And it's kind of like opening my mind. So there's times I'll go to the lake, even during these tournaments or during a pre-practice, and I'll just make myself throw something all day, even if it's not getting any fish, but just like you said, watching how I'm working it, how that bait moves, how I twitch the rod, or if I'm pumping it, or, a certain rod, what rod works best, just kind of like, honing in on my craft. So But as far as like around here fishing, I mean, you can't really be an A rig. I mean, it seems to there's a system there. You know, you can find those fish around brush piles, around standing timber, you know, around the bait, and you can throw those A rigs, and you can usually pull them. And if they don't eat, you know, following up with like a jerk bait or a smaller swim bait, a lot of times that three trio right there, you're going to catch them. But if somebody wanted to go out right now, anywhere around where I live at, they could pretty much just put a crankbait in their hand and just kind of grind it out on those bluff walls or those channel swings, and you're going to catch fish. You might go through a 10, 15 fish that are keepers and then catch that 1 4 or 5 pounder, but it's kind of a hit or miss thing.
Cool. Now, one more question, but we're in January pretty much, you know, a couple more weeks. So in that part of the country, when are you starting to look for these fish to start moving up and trying to spawn? Like I know in some areas, February, March, they're already going.
Yeah.
You know, what do you suggest is the best time?
I kind of base everything off the water temperature. You know, it's you know, a lot of people will say it's always like April, March, May, that kind of time. People around here be like, oh, when the dogwoods are blooming, you know, it's always everybody has their own
season.
Yeah. So,
that's what I want to ask.
Like, I kind of just go off. It depends on what body of water I'm on. It seems like every lake's a little bit different, and you know, and I tell people times, you know, like if you have a blackberry kind of winter to where you don't really have a whole lot of cold nights and stuff like we've been having here lately, and you get farther in the year, I mean, if that water temperature is right, those fish are going to start moving up. It could be into February, the first week of March. You know, it's kind of a hit or miss. We don't really. I haven't learned any kind of special time of year around here. It's always kind of been based off the weather for me. It kind of, you know, hit or miss with that because Kentucky's crazy. I mean, it's pretty much everywhere now. It seems like you're getting, you know, longer winter. The colder staying a lot longer than it was before. So I kind of base it off that and then kind of roll with it then. But we don't really have a set time. But, you know, when I start getting closer to spring, I start getting excited. So that's when I kind of start feeling like, all right, you know, I'm going to make sure any chance I get to get on the water, I'm going to be out there because you just never know.
Giants. That's when it was a lot of those glide bait fish get caught.
Yeah.
February, March, April, dude. Like probably more big fish get caught on that bait in those 3 months. Any other month.
And see, around here we get a lot of rain in the spring, and you can get up there. We got a lot of flooded trees, brush, and everybody around here, you know, just spinnerbait. I mean, it's just so much fun.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's a ball, but we don't have any grass and stuff like you guys have down in Alabama.
Okay.
So it's, you know, I mean, these fish are not like the southern fish where you got like the Florida strain and stuff. These fish are they can do a lot more than what people think they can do in the colder temps, especially like the smallmouth. I mean, usually this time of year into that spring, I'm fishing for smallmouth because they're on fire. I mean, like Del Hollow and stuff. We actually went out there last year, me and my cousin. I think we spent 2 days and caught like 60-some pounds just on A-rigs, just throwing, you know, going down those bluff walls and stuff.
Wow.
And so, I mean, this time of year, that's kind of what I usually do. I just haven't got to go out and do it yet.
I know.
Yeah.
Holidays and everything, man. It's hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's definitely tough. Plus, you know, trying to get everything ready for next year. And, you know, like what DJ was talking about, I wasn't real sure where I was going to go. I knew I was going to fish regardless, but, you know, I was kind of waiting to see if I had anybody kind of write back and say, hey, you know, because, you know, I did send letters out like everybody does. You're trying to get financial help, but also know it, you know, I got to kind of earn that. And I'm in that spot right now. So I have an awesome family that supports me. I've got a lot of awesome local friends that have companies that try to help me out. That's cool. So this has been awesome. So I'm hoping next year if I can get me a trophy. That's all I told Mom. She could have the check, you know, make sure everything's paid. You can have the $100,000. I just want the trophy. I already got a spot in there. I'm going to put it at.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to going to Wright Patman.
You got to be. Oh yeah. I'm going to miss that. It was a fun lake to fish.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, they with the changes to the $100,000 for the win is huge, and I kind of wish they would have came out with that. It wouldn't have changed where I'm at right now because I have to stay close with some stuff going on. But I think if they could have come, and I'm sure they've heard this, and they probably knew that too. Yeah, if they could have put that out 3 months ago, that it was $100,000, because I saw a lot of guys that had videos similar to yours, and they did the same thing. Like, what do I fish, and what are the pros and the cons, and how much do I have to invest, and how much I can win back? And something I noticed this year that the NPFL this last year had a lot more guys putting them in the conversation
Yeah.
than before. Before it was like the Opens, right? There's the Toyotas, the Opens, or this, and the NPFL wasn't really mentioned. And that was first year, so I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But going in that second year and this year, guys were mentioning it quite a bit. You know, it was an option, and I think had they put that $100,000 out there earlier, I think there's.
I agree.
And
I think things would have been different.
Big names. Yeah.
I do too. And like I've had, you know, you get that mixed kind of comments, you know, from people when they ask, when you talk to people on either social media or they call you, you know, and like I tell everybody, you know, nobody's going to ever start a business and then from the start of day one, they're not going to have any issues.
No.
There's always going to be growing pains. You know, there's things that you know, we all can have opinions on how things could have been handled differently. But as far as an organization, how they run that tournament, and I'm sure DJ can vouch for this. I mean, as far as getting you on the water, off the water, hosting you and showcasing the companies that want to support us, they're doing a tremendous job. And I think with anything, you could have the next best thing since sliced bread. Somebody's going to have something hateful to say about it. But I mean, I feel like that the NPFL needs to be here, and I want to see them succeed because there's enough. The sport has grown so much. You're going to have avenues like that. And I know people like Luke Dunk and all those guys have advocated for it, even though that they work with the NPFL. But it's true. I mean, the sport has grown so much that, you know, there's got to be more to where these, you know, younger generation that's coming up, or, you know, mid-age guys that want to jump into this can have an option. And if you really think about it, I know I hear this a lot. Everybody says, well, there's nothing you can do other than the NPFL. There's no after that. There's nowhere you can go from there. Okay, well, how I look at it is, this could be the wrong way. I look at it like, you know, you have guys that go down the opens path. I've never done that. I'm not against that. And then they qualify for the elites. But when they get to the elites, there's no advancement from the elites. And I'm not trying to toot the NPFL's horn when I say this, but I think that they showcase a tournament similar as a platform as the elites, as far as how they showcase, you know, the whole thing with the lives, you know, doing the infomercials, you know, how they do the interviews with the anglers. You know, if I'm successful with that league, I'm fine there. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with going somewhere else to try to venture out somewhere, but I don't think there needs to be anything above it because they're a top tier program.
Yeah, I mean, with the payouts the way they are now, and that's what everybody brought up was the payouts. Okay, so if you're making $100,000 per tournament, and you got a $250,000 championship. Yeah, it's like being in the league. You're not going anywhere above that, anyways. So you're still fishing for the big dollars. The only thing the other league has, you know, something like Bass has is, I mean, not the only thing, but there's that prestige of fishing the class. Yeah. But as far as the money wise now, with what they got going on, you're right. You don't need to go anywhere else. And and the league is running well. The ownership and stuff, those guys are great. I mean, I'm going to miss being out there this year, and I'll be excited to get back out there the following year with them. As long as they'll have me back. And
I'm sure they will.
He said he'd get, you know, I'll be back. But why do you need to go anywhere else? Yeah. You know what I mean? Guys, just the FLW, and back in the day, and there was Bass. Some guys just like fishing FLW, and they stayed there. Yep.
I think eventually there'll probably be like a AAA program to where you could qualify to get the NPFL. I think that would be an awesome additive to them. But this is kind of like, you know, the guys that, you know, we're trying to get, you know, they have the sponsors or they're successful. They've created businesses and they've never really got a chance to pursue a dream, you know, to fish at this level. This is, you know, Brad and Michelle and everybody that does all the work they do with them on the league. They're kind of like opening the door saying, like, here, you can come here and compete at that level. You're going to get the same kind of payouts. You know, we're going to advertise and do the same kind of format for you guys, and you don't have to go through the whole process. I think eventually there's going to be a process to get there, and that's kind of what I've weighed out too. Like, hey, you know, yes, I'm paying for my season. You know, have a little bit of financial help. But, you know, this is a business. It's something I plan to do. And it's not something I wanted to be like a weekend warrior. So, hey, I just want to give it a shot and see what happens. That's the start of it. But this is something I'm passionate about. I want to continue to do it, not only on the water, but off the water for companies. I want to be able to, you know, work for these companies at shows, you know, do stuff on and off the water for them. So I was like, if I invest my money here, I feel like I have the best chance the way they showcase the anglers and everything. You know, you got a smaller group of anglers. Nothing against the BFLs or the Toyotas, but you might be competing against 300 people.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is my best investment for my ROI. This is where I feel like I'm gonna get the best return on my money being spent. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. Like I said, I'm not downing any other organization because I fished them and I enjoyed them, and I still fish like some BFLs and stuff. So I enjoy all of them, but I just feel like this organization is somewhere that in the next 5 years it's going to be hard to get into unless you go through a program to an advance to them. So
no, I agree. Get in now and start us out on the shelf now, because
really,
that you know, there's a definite learning curve to.
Oh yeah, it's
going from. We'll say, you know, going from pro-ams and, you know, stuff like that to getting out and fishing these things. And it takes a while, and you know, and depending on where you're from, West Coast or East Coast, you know, you're fishing different kind of water and stuff too.
Yeah,
you know, you're fishing unfamiliar places.
Oh yeah, and I've heard people say, like, you know, things about the league where they feel like the caliber of angler there is not there. But if you look at this year, we had 3 guys that not only fished the NPFL, but they fished the Opens, and they're going to be in the elites next year. 3 guys from the league that are going to be in the elites. So if you think that the guys that are paying this money, even if it's, call it what it is, mommy and daddy's money or whatever, you know, it seems like in bass fishing, we try to downplay each other so much, but it's so serious. I don't know why it's so serious anymore, but I mean, the caliber of angler is there. Like, if you think that these guys can't catch fish, I mean, you're wrong.
Yeah, there's hammers out there. Let's put it like that. There's hammers. You go out there and you can't slip up.
Nope.
You know, you better get on them. You better find them, because if you're not, you're just going to get buried.
Absolutely.
You know, there are hammers. You know, it's all these anglers taken from across the United States. This is not one little state that's taking their best anglers. This is guys from all across the country that come out that are hammers in their regions, and they fish well here. And guys that traveled before, there's, like you said, guys that have fished the Opens, guys that fish, we have guys that fished the FLW tour when it was around.
Yep.
So yeah, you better be ready. You better be ready. These guys will put it on.
Oh yeah, they definitely will.
Now, quick question, Adam. You know, you mentioned in the beginning how the first tournament was all full of emotion and intense, and you fish enough of them now to where you kind of got it down a little better. But one thing I wanted to just ask you, and for some of the younger anglers who are getting into the sport, when you get in, you're excited, you want to throw this and that. Now, after fishing the season, what percentage of your presentations are more on, for example, do you fish more reaction throughout the course of the tournaments? I know the season, you know, the conditions vary, but, you know, generally, are you relying on finding fish and picking them off, or are you just jumping around and spending a lot of time fishing faster to succeed?
Well, this year we only were on one lake that I've ever been on, which was Cumberland. Never been on the Great Lakes. So there was a lot of learning. And what I did was at the beginning of the season, I created portfolios for each of the lakes.
Okay.
And, I looked up old tournament history, weights that it took to win. And you try to find those lakes in the same time that date, which, granted, this year we hit a lot of different bodies of water, normally when people don't go there sometimes. But I would try to take what I found study-wise and try to implement that when I got there through the practice. But I will tell you, it seemed like I always kind of went back to what I knew. As far as, I fished what I was confident with. I didn't try to make myself or force myself to fish a certain way. Like if we were at Watts Bar, for instance, everybody at Watts Bar, I'm not saying everybody, most people at Watts Bar associated that lake with Chickamauga, and they were trying to catch those fish ledge fishing. And I remember reading an article. There's a local pro there. I cannot remember his name for some reason, but he wrote an article about that lake and said that, hey, everybody associates that lake as a ledge lake, and it's not. It's a dock and lay down lake. Not that you can't go on those ledges and catch those fish. Right. And so at the beginning of practice, I try to do that because I seen a majority of the field that was out there scanning and, looking, had the bent neck thing and they're casting out. And I was like, man, I can catch these fish. So I kind of like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to force myself to fish this way. I'm going to do what I know. And I threw a Texas rig and went to hit these lay downs. And I just stuck to that, and I was able to catch a check at that event, which built up some confidence because it was one of those things I kind of had like a a moment to myself on the water, which I've had many of those this year, where I'm like, if you can't do this or you can't do that, you can't compete with these guys. You got to you can't.
Right.
You're going to be scared to stay on the porch like at the Great Lakes. I kicked myself in the butt because I know I could have got a check at Saginaw, but when the event started, I was too scared to run across the water. So when we went to Erie, I said, I will not fish scared here. I don't care if I don't catch no fish. I'm going to force myself to drive across this lake, and I'm going to build up the confidence because I can't do this. You gotta, if you're going to play at this level and you're going to beat the big dogs, you got to step it up. So as far as baits I use, I feel like I'm kind of like a broad spectrum fisherman. I like to throw reaction baits like crankbaits, spinner baits and stuff. But it seemed like most of the tournaments, I would kind of go back to what I knew. Just like at Erie, I tried to do the offshore stuff. I couldn't really figure it out. I was, like I said, I was building the confidence up on getting out there and being able to have my sea legs and all this stuff, because it is different. And when you're fighting those smallmouth and they're jumping and they're 6 feet above your head because you're in a 4-foot roller, it just is really different. And so I ended up going back into the harbors, and I got on an amazing frog bite. Caught 5 fish every day, and I think I finished. I want to say at the end of it, I was in the 60s. But if you look at those weights, that's another thing. That shows you the caliber angler, because the weights are always tight. Sometimes people are making check by 2 ounces. It's never a huge deficit, in that first portion of it. But I mean, I try to do what you see other people do on the water, kind of play the same role, but I always kind of went back to what I knew. I kind of was like, well, I can't do this, so I'm gonna, I guess, fish safe. But I could tell a huge difference in myself, coming back from that and coming here to these home lakes and fishing just for fun or for a little tournament, and I break the water down totally different than I did last year.
Okay.
From the year before, the amount of confidence I've built because of the amount of hours of screen time I've got this year. Being able to just sit in my seat, knowing that I got 8 days here versus, I got a Friday that I'm fishing this tournament.
Right.
I spent a lot of time idling in my boat and learning my graphs and, picking stuff apart, playing with the gains and, and what I like my setup. So I can tell now when I get to a lake, there's just a huge more amount of confidence in myself just from this first year that, is I can tell I've adapted as an angler on the water. So it's been great, learning. I think, you never can be too old to learn stuff. So, I try to pick up on what everybody else is doing to try to learn from them. And then I try to kind of just adapt it to my own, where I feel like, hey, I could take this and use it this way and it works for me. So, but I can't remember a certain style of bait that I used for the season. It was kind of like a plethora of stuff, it was, just
you fish your strengths basically.
Yeah, just kind of when it got tough, I just went to what I was good at. Like when we was at Saginaw, I was scared to get on the water. I could have made 10 grand there. I have every bit of confidence in myself to know I could have made 10 grand there. I let the water dictate how I fished, and I stayed in the river, and didn't have a very good day the first day. Had a good day the second day, and then the third day was crap again because I felt like I was beating up the same territory. And I knew the whole time I was fishing, I was like, you might as well put your boat on the trailer. You're out here messing around, you're not doing what you should be doing, that voice in your head. So, and that's another thing I built up confidence in, actually listening to what, my mind's telling me, hey, if this is what your gut's telling you to do, just go do it. And a lot of times it pays off. So a lot of people, it's all between the ears. I mean, I don't care. You can have the best electronics, everything. You could have the nicest, newest, brand new boat, $50,000 worth of electronics. It ain't the boat or the electronics. It's the angler. And a lot of times we beat ourselves up, and, the fish don't bite because of us, not because they're just not biting. It's just that we overthink stuff. And so I try to I don't know. it's just a mix of emotions this year, but I'm really looking forward to next year, just because of the amount of confidence I've built up this year and the lakes we're going to next year. That's just, I feel like it's going to set up for me a lot better.
That brings me, somebody asked in the chats, what lake are you looking forward to next year? Someone asked.
Right,
what's your is it?
Right, Patman. I got to go there when you guys were there last year. I rode on Cortland Williams' boat to be his camera guy, and I had to sit on my hands because I was like, holy crap.
There's some monsters on that lake.
Gosh, she went with me. I said, I'm almost tempted to go home, and when they get done, take my boat down there just to fish.
I lost a monster on the final day of that tournament. I mean, a monster.
Yeah.
I was looking for, when I did see that, I was looking forward to that lake too.
I think it'll take 3 days. It'll probably be 60 plus
Maybe
pounds
20.
for 3 days.
Yeah, easily. To cash a check, yeah. Someone, if it fishes anything like it did last year, you're right. Someone's gonna come in with 19, 20 a day
Oh yeah.
on that lake, no problem. I mean, they're there. There's some
One
monsters on that.
Only thing I don't like is all the snakes. I'm not a snake guy, so
Oh, never mind, man. I saw a couple of them out there too.
yeah.
Water moccasins, cottonmouth,
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
In the
and so you got all that
trees.
buck brush, and they blend in, so like you can't see
That's
it.
right. Yeah, so when you hang, and there's a lot of buck brush in there, so when you hang something, and you gotta go back in there, you're looking, because then them snakes are in the trees.
Just break it off, screw it.
I'm telling you, I don't play with them snakes. I tell people if I found a boat there, I'd walk across the water like a lizard. I'd be back at the boat ramp. But that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. I'm actually excited about going back to Saginaw too, to be honest with you. Now that I've built up this confidence, I feel like I'm excited to go back there just for myself to see now like how I approach that.
Figured out.
Oh yeah, because the fishing there is ridiculous. If you got out there and fished the grass or whatever, I mean, I believe you could have Texas rigged a Cheeto and came in with 5 fish a day, but they were just so thick in there.
Nice. Listen, Adam, we got I got another question for you real quick. It says favorite go-to bait when things get tough and fish are being picky.
I get, again, it depends on the lake, but like a jig, I have a jig tied on year round. I'm not opposed to being, even if I'm fishing offshore, and I see fish or they're not chewing. I mean, there's times I'll flip a jig out there just to see, but I say a confidence bait for me is a jig. I'm a close contact kind of person. So a lot of times around here and in the past, and that's why I'm trying to kind of adapt myself. But I seem like when I get into a pinch or I kind of get like locked into where I'm not catching them, I'm a river rat and I'll take my boat to the very back of a river, but confidence bait for me is going to be a jig. That's my favorite thing. I love slacklining fish. That's why I'm looking forward to going to Wright Patman. I love watching that line bounce and then being able to reel down and try to give them a chiropractor adjustment. That's my favorite. I try to bring lips up to the boat when I say,
yeah, buddy. Heck yeah.
You'll be able to slack on it through there.
Oh yeah, I can't wait.
Since you're talking about being a river rat now, where I'm from, Neely Henry, Coosa River.
Okay.
So the way that these lakes set up is, it's all about current. When you start moving current, it starts biting through it. It's good. If not, like the lower lake will be tougher. Now, how do you prefer to fish a lake like that? Are you most of the time going to go upriver and fish laydowns and brush on the banks compared to down lake? Is that kind of?
I will. I'll fish a lot of like structure. I'll try to find those eddy areas.
Okay.
And a lot of banks around here, because we have a lot of red clay, softer ground, those undercut banks. I love, skipping a jig. A lot of people look at a bank and just think it's right there as the end of it. And they don't realize that some of that goes up in there a little bit. So, skipping a jig and those undercuts. I mean, I've had people be like, look at me funny, like, why are you throwing that jig so hard against that bank? I'm like, dude, it goes back there like a foot or two. I'll take and pan my live scope over there. And I'm like, those fish will sit right there. And then they'll ambush, as those fish are coming down through that, either wind current or natural current or whatever. But I usually look for structure. I love flipping bushes, docks, any kind of structure. But that's the basis of what I look for when I get into a river. Those eddies, if I could, like when we was at Saginaw, I fished an eddy there under a bridge, and there were 3 or 4 other anglers that had just beat that area up. And there was just something that stuck out to me, and I seen it, and I caught 15 pounds right in one little area you could have put a basketball in. They were just stacked.
Is that the first bridge, right? Second bridge, basically going upriver.
When you go upriver and you pass that last long 900-mile no wake area, and you make that left, and then there's a bridge down here on your left. As soon as you're in that bridge, there was like a little rip rap kind of point right there, and then if you went down there, it was a lot of grass and like I don't know what they called that stuff down there, like cattails and stuff. But there was one little spot, and when I pulled in there, I came off. I was idling in. I turned the boat off, walked up to the front of the deck. I believe like Chris Keeble and those guys were going down there. And I looked and I seen it was like a little perfect little eddy. And it was like, as soon as you threw in there, it was like wham, wham. And then those guys turned around and came back. I let them fish it. I went down, turned around, kind of retied some stuff. I came back around and it coiled up twice. I mean, there's things that I can see when I get shallow where I'll pick stuff apart differently. Like I was talking to Craig Burwell the other day, like throwing a square bill. you know, when I get on laydowns, I don't just burn a square bill down laydown. I'll treat it like a jig. You know, I'll work it in that brush. You know, I'll up my line, and you know, I'll feather it through laydowns and stuff, just try to get a reaction bite. But
Yeah.
I'm a shallow water guy. That's my jam there. It's shallow water. So
That's cool. And one more question: when you're fishing that way up in the river, do you feel more confident flipping a jig or flipping like a flipping Texas rig, flipping hook type setup?
Most of the time it's a jig. There's certain times of year I'll kind of put the jig down and kind of go towards the texture a little bit more. But a jig year round, I don't care what anybody says, you can catch a fish on a jig year round. But like this time of year, I'll go like the Bitsy Bugs. I love the Bitsy Bug jig. And if it ain't the Bitsy Bug, it's I get a jig from PH Custom Lures. He hand ties all of them, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I hate about the Bitsy Bug. Sometimes I'll actually take the Bitsy Bug and I'll have spare braid in my box, and I'll just kind of tie it real quick myself. But a jig for sure, 100%. But yeah, that's usually what I'll look for on those laydowns. I'll kind of pitch up in there and just. That's what I did at Watts Bar. I did a Texas rig there, but I just picked stuff apart, worked the outside going back. You know, and a lot of times I wouldn't even put my trolling motor down. I'd come up to a laydown and pick it apart. Time I blew past it, I just go to the next one. And it was like I feel like that was one of those tournaments I couldn't do anything wrong. I was just catching fish like over and over and over. I was like, well, it was like one of those events I just could use one rod. And I was flipping a creature bait, and I was following it up with a J Bros Trifinity worm, which I know it's a newer company, but this worm it's got like a triple tail on it, and the way it stands up in the water. I've made that check helped me. That bait helped me catch a check there, but also around here locally this year before he released it, I was getting in people's pocket.
That's some good intel. Break that bait down again so our viewers can check that out. What's the brand and the name again?
It's J Bros Lures. Like if anybody wanted to look at it, it's jbroslures.com if you go to the internet. He has an Instagram or Facebook, TikTok. His name's Larry. He does a lot of videos, tutorials on like tank tests and stuff. But the bait he makes right now that I love the most is the Trifinity worm. It's a 7-inch worm bait that has a triple tail. But if you watch any of the tank tests, like on my Texas rigs, I'll put 2 bobber stops. You know, one top, one bottom of the weight. Right. You know, because like in the summertime, a lot of times I'll try flipping, but then I might peel it out and use it as a Carolina rig. Mm-hmm. But that way, that bait when you pull it, you use the plastic, uses those tails kind of go back. It goes in that defense posture. And, I mean, there's no wrong way to fish it, but I've made a lot of money off that bait this year.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's some intel right there.
He's an awesome guy. Awesome guy.
Trifinity worm. Okay, cool deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from J Bros, right?
Yep, J Bros Lewis. I think I seen him on your comment a while ago, but he's a really good guy.
Yeah.
He's based out of Louisville, Ohio. So,
but
he's got like those northern guys. He's got a tube I used at Lake Erie, a little 2.75 tube, and his tube is totally different. It's not the traditional tube and then cut. The tails are all individualized, and when it's in the water, it all stands up, and those little tails are like all dancing around. It's crazy.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's crazy.
We'll all check that out. You know how we are.
Yeah.
If you're fisherman, you're gonna. I just say I've got so much stuff. I got so much stuff in my garage right now I'll never even use. There's just so much stuff down there. It's 6-inch.
Yeah, there it is. Cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, we got. I know we got Chris on deck here. Adam, we appreciate you coming on. You're more than welcome to hang on if you want. We can put Chris on. You can stay on with us if you got questions.
Yeah,
you can ask him too, but let me get Chris on.
Sounds good.
Adam, you'll hang with us, and we'll talk to Chris. Let's get him on.
Okay.
Let me switch up what we got here. Chris, I got you on.
All right, what's up, everybody?
Hey,
how are you
guys? This is good. So this is Chris Flint. He's a guides here on Lake Guntersville. So Art and I are going to pick your brain, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But so what we like to talk about on the show is kind of some what's going on the lake, maybe some tips or something you could give out to the guys, and just kind of what's happening on Guntersville and what do you see getting ready to happen on Guntersville. So when guys come out and fish, maybe they got a little bit of an idea, because I see stuff on some of the Facebook stuff where guys coming to Guntersville, and it's constantly, guys, what should I be throwing? What are they doing? And no one knows probably better than you. You're out there all the time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, I got a partner that practices with me or helps me look for fish too, but I think I bring something different to Guntersville. I've been guiding here probably full time for 3 years now. I've lived in Guntersville for 4. But I'm a northern guy. I'm from northern New York. I grew up on the St. Lawrence River, so I fished clear, deep water. I never had to fish grass. I was always around deep smallmouth. I cut my teeth on Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, all the Great Lakes. So when I came to Guntersville, it was a different beast. Like I don't like being near shore. I don't like being in grass.
That
So
sounds familiar.
it was
Sounds
made.
familiar.
Yeah, so it was a major different thing for me to come. So I think I look at Guntersville a lot different than, some of the other people do in how I approach it. So I think the biggest thing that I always tell people is, and you see it happen so much on Facebook, is like, say the fall's coming. They're like, oh, it's frog season. Like, when's the frog bite start? Like, they think all these things should happen because of what they've seen in the past. And that's not the case anymore. Um, and the best example of that is when that Toyota Series championship just came here in the fall. And all those championships, and that's how I got down here. I qualified for the Toyota Championship in 2017 or something. I came down and I fished Guntersville, and I was close to being able to retire. When I fished Guntersville, I fell in love with it. I'm like, I know where I'm moving. I moved back home, sold all my stuff, retired, and moved to Guntersville. That tournament was won flipping. And it's no secret that Miracle Mile by the BB Comer Bridge, that's where there's so much money that's been won on that strip. But the years since I've been here, I've seen things change. When I talk to some of the old time guides, the hydrilla is starting to go away. The eelgrass took over. Now the eelgrass is starting to mix with the hydrilla. It's putting shad in different places. And so when that Toyota championship came, I had a feeling like it's not going to be won in that grass. And everybody was up there running those
Mhm.
grass lines, flipping and pitching. And
Yeah.
look at the top 10 guys, how they did. They're all out on that live scope in that deep 20 foot of water, targeting single big fish. And
Yeah.
just about, so I was a camera guy. They hired me to run around. I followed those top 10 guys, and it was interesting to watch how it was finally won in a different way.
Nice.
Um,
This,
just
the,
super cool. It's changing, and I don't think we're actually dialed in on the best fish because of how Guntersville's starting to evolve. I think a lot of these fish are starting to suspend and live out there, and if you can figure out how to catch them, those are the guys that are going to catch big bags of fish now.
yeah. You think that flip and bite it's obviously still there, but you think it's transitioning into a little something different,
Yeah,
something in between the ledge fishing and the flipping fishing.
yeah, yep.
Do you think
Go,
that's
you know,
because the
Come,
I mean, you can.
go ahead, Adam.
What's that?
Do you think that's because of the amount of pressure that's on Guntersville now, being that it's kind of like a sought out after lake to fish, that those fish are adapting because of all the pressure?
I think there's a lot of, and you can see it on the live scope. I think that pressure is putting those fish, it's putting those shad in different positions, and they're just adapting to live in that open water where they roam and they don't have to get pounded
Yeah.
by these baits all the time. I mean, granted, in the summertime, you could still come into a grass flat when I was guiding, and we'd have days where it was 50 fish, 80 fish. The most I did in a 6 hour trip was 98 fish in a 6 hour trip in the summer. But they're all 1 to 2 pounders. I
Right.
mean, the lake is full of fish. But when you catch that many fish, if you catch 100 fish in a day in a grass bed and not one is over 3 pounds, you're not in the right area for big fish.
Right.
yeah,
So those fish are living somewhere else.
Yeah,
yeah,
that makes
finding
sense.
new.
That makes a lot of sense because it's funny. DJ and I are not from here, so when we started fishing the lake and trying to figure it out, I the first several times I was out there by myself, I went to the south, deeper water, rock, and trying to
Yep.
relate to stuff that I'm familiar with. Now, funny thing about that is one of our Spearpoint pros, Richie Gonzalez from Mexico, he fished, on the international side. in that championship. And I went out there, fished with him. We caught some frogfish and, practice and stuff like that. But he ended up catching a big percentage of his fish throwing an A-rig in the south and targeting fish that were actually in 20-foot, 15-foot, because he just couldn't make it happen in the grass. So, I mean, a lot of guys who were just stuck on that way of flipping in the fall, flipping and frogging, I think they're really overlooking what these bigger fish are doing. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think when you look, the great thing about Guntersville is, like Adam loves to throw a jig. You might love to throw a frog. I love to throw a drop shot. Like, it doesn't matter the time of year or what it is. If you have a technique that you like to do, you can do it on Guntersville. I mean, it's that you can drop shot, you can throw a jig, you can throw a crankbait, like all those different techniques. There's not a lot of lakes in the country where you can go do those all at the same time and still be able to catch fish.
Right. And good fish.
And I think that's why a lot of pros move here and live around here, because it's that type of lake where you can practice your skills all the time. If you're not good at one, like, today I'm going to go out and drop shot. Tomorrow I'm going to go out and flip a jig. The next day I'm going to go out and crank. And you can do that all in the same week and still catch fish.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's true. Or you can run down to, one of the things I like about this area is that you could be at so many different lakes so quickly.
Yes.
I'm starting to like Smith Lake a lot, only because not only, but it reminds me a lot of our stuff out west.
Yeah.
Not as much grass, rockier stuff. So it fits, the way I've been fishing for so long, a little better than out here. But trying to figure this grass and stuff out here, I'm doing the same. I'm still trying to fish the same way I fished back there. And I fish drop shot in Guntersville a lot, which, like you said, people probably go, oh, it's Guntersville, big bait, slipping, frogging. But Art and I will go out and I probably go that drop shot 70% of the time. On Guntersville.
That drop shot, like in the spring for me, like that's my go-to bait when I'm guiding. I can put it in a client's hand and we can throw it out in that eelgrass and drag it through it, and them fish hook themselves and they can catch them,
Yeah, absolutely. And the lake is weird. I know I saw you Friday. I was going out pre-fishing and you were telling me that Buddy Ears went out 3 days in a row and blanked one day and caught 50 fish the next day. And then he said he caught like 6 the next day.
Yep.
It can be a frustrating lake. And I've had plenty of those days where you just get them and I go through 4 packs of Senkos in 3 hours, and then I'll go out the next day and I can't find a bite. It's
and that's what you see people come down. They're like, they'll go out for a day, and well, what these fish do is they roam now because of the eelgrass. They never sit still in that eelgrass. They're just them shad are constantly moving. So somebody that's not familiar with the lake, and I did it when I first started learning here, is they get out, you get on a little patch of eelgrass and like, boom, caught them, 3-pounder, 4-pounder. Oh, we caught it. Okay, there's some fish there. I'm going to guide off that. I'd line up 10 spots. I'm going to guide off. I'd run back out there the next morning, fish that little area, gone. Never catch fish, never get a bite. Like, one thing you have to learn here is you fish areas. You learn how to track those fish and you learn how to see how they roam. Electronics for me is a huge thing. I practice it. I preach it all the time. At the very least, when I'm going out looking for fish, I got to find some of that bait. Like, I'm not so much worried about if I'm seeing fish. I got to find that right bait to know that I'm in the right area to try to catch fish here.
Yeah. And and with your guiding stuff, you do some, not just guiding, hey, let's go out and do some fishing and put people on fish, but you do electronic guiding trips also. And I went out with you one time and did one, just to see what we could dial.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'll do I'll do a regular 2-hour stuff lined up for people and learn what to look for and try to identify fish when we see them on the graph. And then I'll do a 4-hour trip, which I combine, like we'll go out and scan and try to find fish. And then we find them, we'll try to set up and try to catch them. And that just gives people the confidence that when they get on their own graphs, they can try to catch fish. You asked that question today about how the bite is and what's going on out there. We ran out today. If you run out to any of these bridges out here right now, you'll just see wads and wads of shad going through. And a good way to get good on your electronics and practice and see what's going on is you get around these big bait balls. And if you have live scope active target, you work through those and watch how these fish swim through them, watch the different types of fish that swim through them and try to catch them. And I don't care if you're catching junk fish from white bass, yellow bass, drum. After a while, you learn to recognize what these fish were. So today we sat out on the bridge on 69 for about 4 hours, and we found big wads of bait. And you would see this bait kind of wall up, and it would be getting pushed by, if you looked at it, you would think on the graph that it was bass. And some of it may well have been, but 90% of it out there was drum, and it was pushing these walls of shad around. And so we sat there for 4 hours, and we probably caught 20, 25 drum from 3 pounds to 10 pounds, white bass, all these mixture of fish. And we got used to seeing what they look like when they swim through. And after a while, I could say, there's a white bass or a school of white bass swimming in. There's a school of yellow bass swimming in. There's drum swimming on the bottom. So, as I try to teach other anglers stuff, like, even though you're not catching bass, get out there and practice on other stuff and put that stuff down and realize what you're looking at, because it's just going to make you better. And in the end, we caught like 20 some drum, and we finally caught one largemouth out of that whole big mess, but it was about a 6-pounder, so it was good, but there just wasn't enough in there if you're doing a tournament,
Mm-hmm. But you're there, and
but it was fun. I like setting the hook.
You're right. Yeah, drum. They put up a nice fight.
Yep. But anyways, what the rest of Guntersville right now is doing, it's interesting. Like, when I talked to you on the phone earlier, that bridge is loaded with crappie, and so you got all the crappie fishermen there. There was a guy there earlier that caught an 8-pound, 2-ounce largemouth on a 1/32 ounce crappie jig that was swimming through that bridge. All of us would kill to get one of those, and he's sitting there trying to catch crappie, and he gets one of those.
That's awesome.
But right now you can look in that deeper water. Some of that shad is leveled out. You see, it almost looks like it's dying because it's just kind of leveled on the bottom. You can still catch fish on Guntersville any way you in 20 feet of water, or you want to go in a foot of water and burn a trap, throw a shaky head in deep water. The problem is they're just all spread out. So you really just got to, as long as you're around some shad, you'll pick some off, but it's just not grouped up.
Yeah. Do you think you think this cold water will start grouping them up? We're supposed to get some cold weather coming up. You think that's going to get them going?
Yeah, this stuff that's coming right now. I mean, I think if you ask any of the guides that are out there, they're just kind of chomping their feet. Our fall really didn't get like it should have been. Normally you'll have a really good November where you can get on an early trap bite and catch some really good ones, and they never grouped right. They never got on that trap bite good, and we just need this cold to come in. It'll group them up. It'll put them in them ditches, and that A-rig will come on fire. The trap will come on fire. I mean, they're hitting the A-rig right now, but you throw it all day and you'll catch 6. And I'm not going to throw that A-rig all day to catch 6 because my neck and shoulders can't take it.
Now, Chris, real quick question. A lot of guys watching are from this area, and everyone's anticipating this cold snap, and it's going to be a bad one. So going forward the week after, how do you anticipate locating these fish in these conditions post-frontal like that?
I can tell you one trick I know that we did when we had a cold snap like this is that shad will push against the rock, and you'll see the very bottom layer, whatever water depth, when you find that shad, you'll almost see it where it dies off, and it just makes a big flat line along like a rock causeway or whatever. Mm-hmm. And when you find that dying off shad, we would throw that A-rig out there in that shad, and we would actually jig it back, not reel it, let it fall down to the bottom like the shad, and just pull it up. And those big ones will just suck that A-rig in when it comes by them.
That's awesome.
It's going to get good.
I'm excited for that because it's a similar thing. I was at Logan Martin several days ago, and I found some fish, and they weren't eating right. So I actually put a fluke on a jig head, and I was snapping it off the bottom. I was around shad, similar stuff like that. Now, aside from the A-rig, things like that, you think would be productive over there for how you're describing, dropping flukes or rates,
Yep. Like that big largemouth we caught today. We were throwing a 3/4 ounce Daracoup, and we would just drop it down, let it get on the bottom, pull it up a couple inches off the bottom, and just hold it still. And the fish would swim by, and it would come up and look at it, and you just barely twitch it, and they'd eat it.
There you go.
And you could tell everything's just getting lethargic. Water temperature was 50 on the surface, but I mean, them fish are freezing cold down in where they were.
Well, that's considerably colder than down here in Nakusa. We're still 55 the other day, 56.
Really?
Yeah. So you guys are ahead of us by a couple of weeks at least up there. Yeah. That's cool. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, because we need to get back out there.
Yeah. Next week, I mean, aside from going to Wadawi a lot the next, few weeks, but we got to get up to Guntersville and have some fun. I have a feeling next week a big giant's going to come out from somewhere, and might as well be on the water looking for one.
Yeah. All my biggest fish I've ever caught in Guntersville has been December, January, February. Yep. Any of the 7s or clients that have caught an 8, it's all been December, January, February. Granted, a lot of times you might not catch a lot of fish, but boy, when you catch one, it's normally a good one that time of year.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I know a lot of guys are excited about this cold front. You'll see a lot of boats out there next week. They know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, the next week it's going to warm up. So
Yep. I mean, that's what they say about Alabama. You just wait another couple of days and the weather will change for you.
That's what I tell my buddies. You go into GTO and it's either, oh man, they're not biting at all, or then the next day like, oh, they're chewing today. It's changing all the time. There's no consistency.
I see somebody on your comments here wrote that the blade bait is killer on Logan, and I don't know if a lot of people use that on Guntersville, but that's one of the ones that we always have tied on this time of year. And I mean, some days we can just reel it like a trap and they'll come up and get it out of the grass, and other times we'll just chuck it out there and let it fall. But man, a blade bait's one of them good ones on Guntersville too.
Right. Yeah, I heard last week, talked to another friend of mine, a guide up there, Jason Whitehead, and he said that they were doing good on a blade bait too, Daracoup specific deal. So it's not a secret. A lot of guys up there throughout the years know you're gonna have to throw some kind of tailspin. I mean, the old Little Georges back in the day have changed to Daracoups and this and that, but it's the same concept. Something that looks like a bait with a blade on it, and it's going to get you bit this time of year.
And a lot of people that come to Guntersville or travel out of the area, they're trying to figure out what they want to catch fish. Like I figured this little trick out when I fished like the Toyota series. The first time you ever go anywhere and you get to a town, go right to the tackle shop. You don't even have to talk to people. Just walk around and see what isn't on the shelf.
Right.
And you'll know the baits that you got to get.
That's right.
And same with, I mean, there's no line to that when you walk in and that whole one row of Daracoups isn't there in a certain color, and the one color of Senkos isn't there. Like pretty easy to figure it out.
There's a reason. Yep.
Yep.
That's a good way to figure. I've done that a few times on these lakes that I've never been on. You go in and
I got in the habit whenever I travel somewhere.
Yeah, there's a whole rack of something missing. You're like, what was there? So you read, okay, oh, I see what it is. Okay, and you go over to different bait, same type of bait, but a different maker, and sure enough, that one's all gone. But you look and you got the same color. So, when they don't find that one specific, they just go to the next maker, same color and everything, and take that. So that's one way to figure it out. Well, that's awesome.
But any of these people coming down here or just trying to get out and fish, the best advice I can give them, if you're coming down on a vacation to Guntersville, you spend all the money to come to a place and try to catch fish. Take one day with your buddy and hire a guide. It doesn't have to be me. Just look and make sure the guy's good and it's going to entertain you. Spend that $300 or $400 and learn how the lake acts, learn how to catch a few fish, and then spend the rest of the week. I don't know how many times I run into somebody like, oh, we're down here on vacation. We've been here for 5 days and caught 2 fish. Well,
Right.
you spent $1,000 in lodging. You brought your boat down and all this stuff. You could have spent an extra $300 at the beginning of the week and got yourself set up right. But I guess some guys just don't want to eat their pride,
Yeah, dude. You know what? It's funny you're saying that. I agree, and I'm going to tell you a quick story. Being from California, I grew up going up to Clear Lake as much as I could, fishing that, and you learn stuff on your own, right? But there were always guys who were just smashing them, and I just couldn't figure out how to get to that level. So I bit my pride, dude, and I hired a guy for the first time ever, and went out there for 8 hours. And dude, I absorbed so much from him to the point where, from that point on, I went about fishing completely different, and it was night and day. So that $400 whatever dollars spent till today, I feel like it was one of the main reasons where my game was up at Clear Lake, because I actually, for once, said, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna give in. I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna ask for help and get some advice. And dude, till today, it's been one of the best guide trips I ever had, because it completely changed how I fished the lake. So I agree to what you're saying. It's a tool. It's guys like you live there, that your full-time job is to locate fish. So it's probably the fastest way to the best intel on the lake. It really is.
Yep.
Yeah.
The problem is us in a whole as fishermen is we're human and we're creatures of habit. So
Correct.
you always reflect back to, well, I caught them like this, and you go do it. And it's
Right.
hard when you start going different places to break that cycle. So when you go with somebody new and do something, you break that cycle. It makes you better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you and I, when you and I went out and we went over my graphs, I told you, I think I have them dialed in. I was like, but anything extra that you could teach me, and you did, I picked up some stuff, and we were only out for a couple hours that day. But I picked
we
up
did a little 2-hour trip.
Yeah, I picked up a couple little things that actually were keys, to set my graph up just that much better. And it was 100% worth it, to go out. Anybody, I don't care how much you fish, if you can pick up some information that, like Art was saying, that will change the way you do things, it's worth it. And you did. You helped me out a lot with the graphs and getting them set up. So I appreciate it. And what's your website? Where do we go to these guys so they can book a trip with you?
You can just hit me up on Facebook. Just look up Chris Flint. That's probably the easiest way. Or you can go to my website, liveupnorthoutdoors.com. I see somebody was asking about my rates. So I do a 4-hour trip for $3.25. A 6-hour trip is $400. And that's for 2 people. So
It's a good price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No.
Very fair. Very competitive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's worth it. That's for sure. Because this it can be tough. You're right. If you're going out here to find them, because you do got to follow them and kind of stay in contact with what they're doing and where they're moving to. So you get out in a day.
Yeah, I mean, I learned that the hard way when I first got here. I'd get out, and when I first started guiding, I would only take 2 trips a week, and that was because I only felt like I could stay on enough fish for 2 trips, and I needed all that other time for scouting. So I passed up and lost a lot of money, but I wanted to start the business the right way. I wanted people to enjoy being with me. I wanted to catch fish, be honest with them. And I remember when I first started, like, I'd take people out, like I'd have like 10 spots lined up. I'd run out, I'd be burnt through 10 spots. We hadn't caught a fish yet. And I was so focused on how I used to fish at home. You only had to, when you found them there, they were there. And you just went and caught them. And that wasn't the case. And it took me a little bit, like I'd have to roam and I'd have to, so I don't know how many, I did a handout, and we only caught a couple fish, and I'd be like, man, I'm not taking your money. Have a nice day. And that was my lesson learned. Like, I'm going to learn the hard way. Either I
Yeah.
got to catch these fish or I'm not getting paid, because I'm not going to take people's money when I can't do it the right way.
Yeah.
And that's what it turned into. It turned into just being comfortable and fishing the moment, which is a lot of those good tournament anglers. That's what they do, is learn how to fish the moment. The stuff changes, and
Mhm.
if you can't change, you're not going to get good, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, you gotta be able to adapt.
Yep.
Now, Chris, a little bit of intel, if you don't mind. When it comes to plastics, what's a good color for the lake generally? I know, like in Smith Lake, they say throw green pumpkin, and green pumpkin. Everyone's like just stuck on that. Is there something specific that shines in Guntersville aside from others?
For me, on the drop shot anyways, it's that robo worm, and that Aaron's Morning Dawn. If you opened up my robo worms, that's all I carry in there, and they eat it.
Yeah, that's
It doesn't
DJ's
matter.
thing right there. Yeah.
I was telling my buddy this weekend. I said, man, listen, if you're gonna drop shot, Morning Dawn. I said, that's it. I go, man, that's all I bring with me almost.
Dude, I played with every single color that they have there, and I'm like, I don't need to waste my money on anything else.
Right.
You know, it's
They
that
eat it.
they do. And you know, honestly, when I'm throwing a shaky head, I never throw a small shaky head. Maybe I should, creature habit, but I just throw that big Magnum trick worm on a 1/2 ounce, and it usually gets me where I need to be. And I throw straight black 99% of the time.
There you go.
Straight black or plum, I'm mixing in, but that black one just seems to work anytime.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That's good intel. Guys are so caught up. I fish with guys where, no joke, dude, they had a Senko box. One of my good friends, I always make fun of him about this back home. And he's got like 25, 30 versions of a 5-inch Senko. I'm like, blows my mind. Like, where are you throwing these 25 colors, dude? You know, you have like dark shad color and few, but like some guys really blow it out of water with that stuff, man. And in reality, like you said, black and Morning Dawn. And the funny thing about Morning Dawn, I knew one of the guys who worked at the Robo Worm plant years ago, and year over year, their number one selling color is Morning Dawn. It blows all the other colors out of the water, dude. It literally.
It's really strange. I don't know how those fish perceive that color, but I don't think I've ever seen a Morning Dawn worm swimming around the lake. So I don't know what makes them enjoy that so much. But
dude, I actually have. In California, it was the weirdest thing. Either it was a lamprey or some kind of tapeworm, but I'm fishing up in the river in one of our reservoirs, and I look down, and the water is clear, so it stands out. And I look down at this pink worm about 8-10 inches, just
really,
S-ing right under the surface. I was like, okay, whatever it is, it don't look right. So, you know, leave that thing alone. But maybe there's lamprey or some type of worms down there that are so rare we don't see them because they just get eaten up the minute they show up. But
yeah,
I don't know. But that color, it just, you can't beat it, dude. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yep. I guess we'll never understand some of the stuff they do. I mean, it's like when you throw a Texas rig Senko out there and just let it sit and they eat it for some reason. That makes no sense to me either, but they love it in the springtime.
There you go.
Fish are weird, man. They're weird.
Yeah.
We love them, though. That keeps you going. You never figure them out, man.
You know? Never.
Yep.
Yeah. My dog's barking. Hey, so we appreciate you coming on with us, Chris. We'd love to have you on again. It's different, as time goes through and things start changing. I'm sure I'll see you out on the lake. We'd love to have you come on and just kind of give us a rundown on what's going on the lake.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Anything, any little tips you can give to any of these guys that are coming out here? Hopefully guys are watching. They can pick a little something up from you and maybe make their trip a little bit, or jump on a trip with you and get out there and smash them.
Yep. I mean, the best tip I can tell somebody whenever you come, doesn't matter what time of year you're down here, is have a little confidence in your graph and be able to find that shad, whether it's a little bit of shad in the grass or if it's out deep or off the edge of the grass, because if you're not around that shad, you're just not around the fish on Guntersville, and you're going to fish a ton of stuff and never have a bite. So, get a little confidence in that graph where you can at least find shad. Don't worry about looking for fish so much, but find that bait.
Yeah. So if you find that bait, those fish will be there, right?
they'll be there. And then I'm not saying that they're going to bite. They'll be there, but at least you
Well,
know you're around a higher
that's
percentage
right.
area where you might get a bite. You know.
Yeah, because we pulled up plenty of times in the ledge fishing, and you see 50 of them, and you just cannot get them to go. And you're looking right at them, going, "Man, what's going on?"
Oh yeah, that's mind blowing when you see that jig coming down through 50 fish
Yeah.
and they just never touch it. Never touch it.
Frustrating. Yeah.
Yep.
We've done that a few times being out here, and it drives you nuts. But then the next day, you go back to that same point, and you just smash them every cast.
Yep,
Why?
that's why you
Who
always
knows?
that's why when you're driving around in Guntersville, you always check every spot you drive by because
Yeah.
you never know when they're gonna light up on it.
I think I told Art that one of the first times we went out fishing. I said, "Dude, but I said I haven't fished this lake a lot, even though I've been out here for a little bit." I said, "What I've learned is let's just keep driving until we see them on the ground." I'm like, we can't just stop and start fishing and hope that we're going to. Let's just keep looking, and then once we find them, we'll see if they eat. And if they don't, we'll go look for some more.
Yep,
Yeah.
100% right on that.
All right, well, hey, we appreciate you coming on. We don't want to hold you up too much
All right,
more,
man.
but man, it was
Thank you,
awesome
man.
having you on, and a lot of great information.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Everybody have a good Christmas.
All right, you
You
too,
too,
Merry
Chris.
Christmas. Have a good one. Thank you, Chris.
All right, we'll
All right,
see you out there.
Yep.
See you.
All right.
Hey, buddy. That was a good one. That was very, very good. Today's episode was just awesome. We got some good intel from Adam, and Chris topped it off on the Guntersville stuff. I think we had some solid conversations going. Something good for you guys.
I mean, and some of the stuff he's saying doesn't just apply, obviously, to Guntersville. I mean,
Right.
that stuff goes, you can take that stuff to other lakes and do the same.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's why we want to get these guys on that are out here doing this all the time, because all this little information they're giving us, man, you just put that thing in the back of your head and just keep that, in the old bank and just wait until those situations come up and go, oh, I remember this, I remember that.
Yep.
Just like the morning dawn. And, even back home, I got my old fishing partner, literally like Chris was saying, we fished the season together, and it was a shaky head and a robo 6-inch morning dawn. And he caught 99% of the fish off the back of the boat, just shaking that thing. Until today, he will not throw another worm. So, I mean, it's so proven. It's just one of those things about fishing. It just works, and you don't want to ignore it. You know what I mean?
I mean, trust me, we use them out west in that clear water. But when I came out here, I didn't think morning dawn was going to be the hot color in Guntersville. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
But for me, it has. I mean, I throw that sucker all day.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun seeing the similarities in such far reaches of the country. I mean, we go from the west to the south, almost the east, and same things are working. That's what's cool about bass fishing. And it's one of those things too, like some of the podcasts I was on back home, like the Bass Report, we were talking about some of these things because they had Jeff Crete on one episode, and I asked him, I said, what were the differences? And it's funny, there were a lot of similarities along with the differences, when shaky head fishing and worm fishing compared to California to what Crete does over here. So it's cool seeing, even though things are different, but you're still going to find a lot of similarity, which is cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap this up. Adam, again, man, we appreciate you coming on. Let's have you on again throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on here.
No, man, it's been awesome. And guys, check out all the Adam stuff, all his social media stuff. Let me see if I can get it up there. It's all Adam Savage Fishing, right? Pretty much everything is.
Everything, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And like next year, I've got my YouTube has not been consistent. So that's my goal next year is to film more of the, I guess, what you don't really get to see a whole lot of, just true 100% fishing. So it's going to be edited, but I want to do a lot of, I like to interact with people too. So like I've had guys like send me messages like, hey, I'd like to see this or I'd like to see that. So I'm going to try to do more of that next year, but everything on social media is all Adam Savage Fishing.
All right. Awesome. Check it out, guys. And we'll get with you maybe after your first tournament, and you can give us a recap on what happened and how it was, because I'll be excited. I'll be watching this year.
Yeah.
So I'll be watching you guys. Hopefully I get to see you on live. And we'll just give us a rundown of how it was, what you did out there to catch.
It'd be great.
Awesome.
great.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Adam. I appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
Awesome, man. Nice meeting you, Adam. Thanks for
You
your
too,
time,
Art.
brother.
You too, sir.
See you around, brother.
All right, you too.
Yeah. Good night.
All right.
DJ,
That was
good
awesome.
show. Yeah. Hey, man, real quick wrap up. Let me just share some info about Neely and Logan for some of our local guys.
Okay.
You know, with the rains coming in, we had a lot of current coming through it's all muddy, but some
Muddy.
parts of the lake, for example, Neely, upriver is real muddy. The arms that come off the main body are clear because you don't have current pushing, you know, all that mud through it. You go halfway up the arms, you got clear water. Water temps are low 50s, mid 50s. There is a worm bite. I've been catching fish at Logan, fishing a shaky head, like a 6-inch worm on a 1/4-ounce shaky head, and like a brown orange kind of worm, like a craw color, you know, like Alabama craw color. So that's been working. There's a crankbait bite, and there's a good reaction bite, like chatterbait bite, red chatterbait or blue chatterbait around the docks at Logan Martin. That's all working. Small crankbaits, I caught them on like a rock crawler type, like the John Cruz Spro crankbait. I caught a couple on those. That's really working. But that's all at Logan. Logan is fishing good. There's good fish there. 3.5 pounds biggest fish. But Neely's Neely. The current's running through it. I talked to a couple guys who've caught fish in the current up by the bridges. You know, the current breaks and stuff do have spotted bass in it. But the reason I was asking Adam some of that upper river fishing he was talking about was because I've also talked to guys who've gone maybe 2-3 miles up river from Gadsden at Neely and caught fish flipping the trees and the laydowns. You'll go down some banks that have 40, 50 foot trees that have fallen into the water. So what will happen is you'll see the branches like the first 5 foot of the water, but there's still another 20 foot of tree going underneath, and you can pull up there with your live scope and you can see them actually positioning off the branches, dude. And you throw like a fluke or something, but it's got to be something slow, because I've been actually throwing a weightless fluke, standard 5-inch fluke, super fluke on our 4-aught spear point 4-aught, and I just watch it fall on the live scope, and right when it gets to where I see them, I'll start shaking it and twitching it, and I'll get bit. So that's been working, because when the current's ripping, I feel like if you cast ahead of them, as it just comes right past them, really, really good. It just right in front of their face, right.
Nice and natural.
It does, dude. So that's been working at Neely. A lot of guys have been catching fish, literally on crankbaits all over the lake, cranking anything and everything, dark colored crankbaits, because the water's muddy, and they're still feeding, but they got to hear it. They got to feel the vibration. Only reason the worm bite's good at Logan is because some of the water is still clear in some of the arms, and you can spot lock off areas that are like 12 foot deep and catch them, like 5-6 fish within 20 minutes. And but Logan has more fish. Logan just fishes better. Neely's a tough lake, always been a tough lake, but it's going to get cold, dude. I'm excited to see what next week's going to bring to the area, because it's finally going to get it into that winter mode, and there'll be more predictable.
It's like they're still in that transition, even though we're in December.
Yeah, they're in limbo, dude. They're totally in limbo still. There's fish. I found fish that are deep, like 20 foot. But then I find some fish that are like in 5 foot off flats. So it's weird. But it seems like with all the rain coming, the current is just good, because you'll have a whole day of current, and it's good current, and it's ripping through the lake. I mean, you'll be all the way down lake and it's still ripping. So it's helping position them, set them up right. But when that goes away, with the rain stop, then it's a whole nother lake. So you're just going to have to get on there and figure it all out all over again, dude. It's crazy.
And with this cold weather we got, who knows how much it's going to drop the temp in the water.
Honestly, DJ, I was thinking about this the other day. If we get to the water, let's say this weekend, even after this freeze, right? Because this thing's going to be tomorrow, the next day. So Thursday, Friday,
Friday, Saturday.
So if we show up, let's say on the water Saturday or Sunday, and we have surface temps, 45-degree surface temps, I'm going to be excited, dude.
Oh, it's going to be
they're going to be – what'll happen is There'll be like a shock. There'll be like one day of kind of shock because it's cold, you know.
Mhm.
By the time they realize it's like, okay, this is sticking, then they're gonna really group up. Like Chris was saying, you'll pull up to a ditch, there'll be 30 of them. You know, so
and
I'm
we
excited.
found some of those ditches this Saturday, but it was
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah,
Man. It was cold outside. Water temp was still 53.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It needs to get into the 40s one way or another.
Yeah.
And once it gets there, it'll change the lake. And it'll change a lot. And guys who are cold water fishermen are looking forward to this. I know I'm looking forward to going and throwing a glide starting next week.
Yeah.
So that's
I'm
gonna be
looking
fun.
forward to just kind of well, I mean, it's so different out here. I get into winter and I'm ready to slow down. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like fish super slow and stuff. But you know, they're eating crankbaits in 3 feet of water still out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, dude, I'll tell you what. When we go to Wadawi next couple of weeks to practice, if I catch 2 fish in any of these practice days over 3 pounds on that glide that I've been throwing, honestly, we're gonna have to put some game plan together where that's something that has to be part of our day because it's gonna take two bites. And hey, check it out. There's standing timber and stuff, you know, and so whether it's an A-rig or a glide or something, but I feel like wherever there's lakes that have standing timber, Smith Lake, wherever, you know, you're going to have bigger fish positioned off it.
Yeah.
And they're territorial, like big spots, dude, to check it out. Big spots in Shasta, they'll be like an area where there's, 20 trees in a cove coming out of the water when the water's low, and they're all old pine trees, right? They're like, there's the tree is sitting in 50 feet of water and it's still got another 50 foot of tree exposed, right? So what will happen is these big spots will pull into these coves with these trees, and one will pick each tree and will hunker right next to it. So what will happen is if you time it right and you go into a cove with like 10, 20 trees and you just pitch or fish or glide bait or whatever right by the tree every time, you'll go through an area and catch like 3-4 3-pound spots. Or like 3 or 4 or 5, fish for 15 pounds. You're like, what the hell? So trees hold them. That's a fact. That's why going into practice for Wadawi, I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to be out there.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got up here, and I don't know if you can see it, but let's talk Spear Point just for a minute. I've got your guys' December deal up there right now.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even see that. So we've been running this for the tackle shops, for the website, whether you buy a tackle warehouse, any website, Sportsman's, whoever, $75 who purchase gets your free shirt. Some cool new shirts we got on the site for this promo.
So it's $75 worth of product.
Right.
You have to buy, and you get the free shirt.
Yeah, you just get on our site. It's a little deal you fill out. We send it to you.
There you go.
We hook it up. Well, we got some other stuff coming next year too. So there'll be some interesting stuff being released Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We'll look out for that.
All right. We'll make sure we put all that out too. So.
Yeah, it kind of got leaked. I'm still not going to say nothing because we have to officially release it. But if you know kind of deal. We got a newer guy who joined our team from Alabama. But wait for that on our social media. We'll officially announce that here coming up.
Hey, you guys, check out the Spear Point hooks, on Facebook and all that. Check them out. If you haven't tried them, if you guys haven't tried the hooks, and I know we probably said this a million times, give them a shot, and you won't go back to the other stuff. Trust me. If you love throwing a drop shot, you won't go back. And with all the new stuff, you like flipping the Fury hook, use it once, you won't go back.
Yeah.
So check it all out.
The Fury's special around here. It's already built the reputation of Guntersville. Cool. I know next year, when flipping season comes, I know it's by then so many guys are going to be throwing it. We're going to have to throw some kind of Spear Point flipping tournament out of GTO. You know how they do like snack crew stuff, snack crew frog only. Honestly, and guys, let us know. Message DJ or whatever, or whoever's watching and listening. If you would like to see a Spear Point Fury flipping tournament at a GTO waterfront next year, or Goose Pond, wherever, maybe we could do a series of them, one at Goose Pond, one at GTO. But flipping only, flipping the Fury flip hook, great prizes, good payouts, and just have a fun tournament like the Snack Proof Open, maybe once or twice a year. But that's something we're talking about doing. It'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, we're gonna sign off, and
Thank you, buddy.
I'm not sure if we'll do one next week. We'll play it by ear next week if we're bored. I know it's the holidays and everything, so if we can get one in, we will. If we can't, we'll let you guys know.
Honestly, what would be cool is, I don't know how our schedule plays out, but if you don't have much going on next Wednesday, maybe we can get out to what Dowie do. And then
Oh yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, we can definitely get out next week.
we just film a little bit out there,
Yeah.
and then introduce, attach that to some of our other stuff, and we'll do that. That'll kind of be.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Let's plan. We definitely need to get out.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, guys. Well, we're out, and we'll talk to you guys soon. But thanks for checking in and watching.
we appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.
Talk to you later, Art.
DJ, see you, buddy.